Lopez Fireworks, it's been a volunteer organization that's gone by different names, but more or less the same thing has been going on since 1951.
It actually started by Jim Scripps and Butch Larson and Doc Holt, and they would shoot a show off of Richardson. But after Jim passed away, they decided to move the show up into Fisherman Bay on the Spit.
You can work with Kai and him to get all these racks back on and mounted.
Nick is the one that's really studied this for a long time. He started at a very young age. He's just really kind of the brains behind the timing and the choreography of the show itself. He started from our old fireworks master, Dwight Walters, and then Dwight kind of handed the reins over and retired from it. And Nick has been running with it ever since.
I was interested in fireworks at a young age, and I got connected with a fellow named Dwight Walters. He was the pyrotechnics director before me back in 1995. And I was doing a school report on fireworks at the time, and I wanted to come interview him to try to understand what they did over here.
The old days, our timing method, instead of computers, is we cut dynamite fuse and a quarter of an inch per second, so we could actually time a lot of our shells when we ignited them. But it's the modern way now.
We decided many years ago that we wanted to remove ourselves from the physical shoot site just from a safety standpoint, and so that involved a lot of fundraising and additional equipment. But now we actually fire the display from a safe distance of over a quarter mile away.
These boxes are how we fire the show. They are radio controlled from a master unit, which is located outside of the safety zone when we're shooting the show. The electric matches connect to these contacts here.
We have a completely unobstructed view of everything that's going on, and that's really good from not only the safety standpoint, but also from the artistic, the choreography side. We can watch the whole show as the audience sees it and be making adjustments to our timing and the display on the fly as we go to try to produce the best effect.
It's like when you have an orchestra and all the different instrumentalists like know their role, but there's still a conductor there, right? And the conductor has to make decisions in the moment.
It's an interesting thing because fireworks, it's always been a bit of a black art, maybe you'd say. Like, it's a really small number of people that do it, as opposed to, say, musicians or chefs or something like that. But it's a really similar set of ideas and a thought process, whether you're creating art through music or through cooking. It's just another medium which is using fire in the sky. When those stars are burning out, everything is still just before apogee.
We would never be able to do it without Nick. He's the glue that holds it all together. He's the ringleader. He does all the ordering, all the choreographing of the show, and keeps us all on the right track.
Nick is a wealth of information. He's very, very passionate about sharing that information with you. So if you ask a question, you will get all the answers that you could ever imagine, and it's really nice to see someone so passionate about it. So he doesn't just show you how to do it, he tells you what you're doing and the purpose behind it.
Because the whole purpose is to prevent sparks from going inside and causing a premature ignition. So that's it. Lopez Fireworks is actually one of the biggest all-volunteer displays in the entire country in terms of tonnage of fireworks.
All of us donate our time, trucks, cars, trailers, machinery, 2.5 weeks a year of volunteering our time, 100%, for the greater good of the community.
And in fact, even alongside commercial shows, it's one of the biggest on the West Coast. Every single year in the biggest 10, most years in the biggest 5. So similar in size and scope as Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, LA, San Diego. Which is incredible, being that it's all volunteer and very grassroots fundraising as well.
My goal when I was the president and the board was to get the community, since it is the community fireworks show, to help in the fundraising.
It's all donation. People mail in checks, grocery stores, restaurants, bars, gas stations, they all have little fireworks donation jars that we put out year-round. And I decided to do this barbecue for 4 days, and hopefully we make some money to help keep this thing going.
In our local parade, we have people with buckets. They get quite a bit from the crowd watching the parade.
For me, one of the most special parts about the Lopez fireworks is just truly how much of a community effort it is, and it's so much fun for me to get to work with the group every year, which is constantly changing. We have some people who've been with us for a very long time, and then always some new faces who are coming in and just want to lend a hand. Tuck a loop through, tie the figure 8 knot, and pull this tail over like that, so when the shell lifts, it's going to snap right here and not disturb anything that's outside of the gun.
There's hours and hours and hours of time that goes into presenting this show that only lasts 25 minutes. I don't think a lot of people realize the amount of work and volunteers that we have that come up here and do this.
I absolutely love doing it. I think it's a great opportunity to serve the community. This is my 13th year. I'm looking forward to it every summer. And the process has evolved dramatically since my first year here.
I am making e-matches, and what it does is it makes an electric signal turn into a pyrotechnic signal. I really just like volunteering in the community and helping out for things that really require a lot of work behind the scenes, and without all the help, nobody would be able to have the show.
Doing this work, I don't know, there's something kind of meditative about it, and to understand like each one of these wires that we're twisting, each one goes to an individual shell, and that shell is going to be an individual effect up in the sky. It's something very, interesting about that to me. And without sort of volunteer support, it wouldn't be anything, right? It'd be Nick playing with bottle rockets in his backyard still. Like it wouldn't have quite the force that you see here. Thousands of pounds of explosives that we get to set off. It wouldn't be possible.
I've been doing this off and on for probably close to 20 years now.
This is our first year coming through. We're just delighted to be part of it.
Every year it's, I would say, around 20 people, and it takes us about 2.5 to 3 weeks for the final assembly. But there's things that happen all year round. For instance, we're planning right now for the show in 3 or 4 years from now. So it's about a 3 or 4 year projection minimum.
This is year 14 for me. It's always been a good group of guys putting on this really unique thing. We're one of the biggest shows around, so it's cool to be a part of that. And then the reward is watching the show and knowing you contributed to it. And the way Dwight choreographed it, and now the way Nick does too, is pretty unique also, so that's fun to be a part of that.
When fireworks were first developed in Japan, it was in actually a peaceful time. And whereas fireworks in Europe, they grew out of originally military uses of gunpowder. So the names of European fireworks are things like artillery and bombardment and things like this, just historical names. Whereas in Japan, fireworks were developed as almost a form of prayer, I guess you might say. So the leaders at the time, they wanted to do something that would bring people together and lift their spirits. And so they decided to commission the first public display of fireworks in Japan. And like many things Japanese, they took this art of fireworks from China, from Europe, and put their own twist on it. And that twist was Japanese-style fireworks are emulated after elements of nature that the Japanese have a reverence for. So the fireworks in Japan are named after different flowers, different trees. You think of things like the cherry blossoms, how much those are appreciated in Japan as a natural thing that happens every year. And so they build fireworks that are called cherry blossoms, for example. They also design fireworks that are meant to emulate weather patterns and even the human life cycle. So there's one type of firework called Cinco Hanabi that is representative of the entire human life, from being born and growing up into being a teenager and a young adult, and then eventually gracefully to the finish. And so it's very symbolic cultural art form there.
The 4th is a big day for work. It's funny because there's like nothing to do on the 3rd. We're basically done. We should be, knock on wood, like we're gonna be done with all the prep on the 2nd, and then on the 3rd it's just kind of like making sure we're done, kind of doing some double checking. Then on the 4th we got to bring all the trailers down.
Getting down here early in the morning and getting after it.
Push the tongue that way, just a kiss. Yeah, I like it. We spliced together a very old-fashioned type of fuse that's called quick match. And we spliced together 1,000 feet of this match. And so it took someone on the crew named Lex, and she was splicing for 3 days straight and put together this incredibly long piece of match. But we used it in and of itself as an effect to light the first shell of the show. And it was just cool. You could see the sparks going along and follow it, and then the show began. And we'll definitely be doing it again next year. Another aspect of the Lopez show that people might find different compared to other shows they've seen in the US is the way that we break it up into these 16 discrete sets. Because mostly in the US, you'll notice fireworks shows is a big amalgamation, a bunch of different colors, a bunch of different shapes all at once. But we, like a lot of the Japanese display producers, we like to, there's so much time and attention that goes into creating each one of these effects individually. So a willow tree, a palm, whatever. And so we like to appreciate those effects by themselves. And it's just an artistic choice. But that's why we break up the show into these 16 discrete sets so that the audience can appreciate all the nuance, the intricacy that goes into each one of these individual fireworks that we like to present.
That's all on Nick. He makes everything fit together, and then also creates this way of mending each set together so that each set progressively works off the last one and then the one after. And then it's done in a traditional Japanese style where, you know, it's intended to draw your attention to the set, and there's supposed to be a specific feel to the set, and it starts out small and then ramps up and ramps up and ramps up and gets you excited, and that's pretty unique.
The history and how it came to Lopez, the Japanese influence. So the pyrotechnician before me is a fellow named Dwight Walters, and he worked in the 70s and the very early part of the 80s with a fellow named Master Kase, who is from the town of Nagaoka, Japan. And he runs one of the most well-known firework companies there, and in fact one of the most famous in the world for quality fireworks. And Dwight, even having worked with him in Seattle before he came to Lopez, learned the Japanese ways and gained an appreciation for how we could take some of those ideas and adapt them to our own community and our own environment right here on Lopez. So he carried on that tradition. I learned everything basically I know about it from him. Of course, I've traveled to Nagaoka to see the homeland, and that's it's just unbelievable culture of fireworks there. It's really something. It's like, I think, composing a piece of music or something like that. So I think it starts with some inspiration that could come from anywhere, and then it's about envisioning in your mind's eye what this might look like, and that's the artistic part, and then we take the technical knowledge of how to translate that vision that you have with your eyes closed, just you know, sitting out in the middle of the woods thinking about it, and then how to translate that into something that's concrete reality that we can put on for the whole community.
The fire department is a huge help in this community, and also with the fireworks show. They come out several times a day, and leading up to the fireworks show, even before we ever get here, and they water the sides of the road, which helps keep the grass green and prevents, you know, as much as we can any fire danger. And then even the day of, they water in the morning, and then they water at about 6 o'clock at night before we shoot the show to do the best we can of fire prevention.
Oh, it went really well on our end. It was a perfect night to have just a couple of knots of wind like that. It was, that's the thing you cross your fingers about, that nature cooperates. So the venue was just picture perfect. The fire rate was over 99.5%, which is relatively rare in fireworks. And so very, very, very happy with the setup this year. On July 5th, we come out in the morning, and the team at dawn, we do a safety sweep and clear any guns that have remaining shells or hang fires, duds, things like that. And then the community is invited to come out for cleanup, and it's just awesome. They're out raking up all the paper and collecting all the supplies and materials and putting away the firing boxes. It's just cool to see. So that's what's going on all over the spit here. I'm getting it all cleaned up.
We're always encouraging anybody that has any interest at all or has some time to volunteer to come out and help us. You don't need any experience, you don't need any licenses. You just have to be at least 18 years old, and we welcome everybody.
We're already planning for next year. It's only 364 days away, but we're already sketching out ideas and plans for the coming season.